Facebook might not be playing nice with Gina Carano, but Christmas comes early for the beleaguered actress. For you see, Lucasfilm creative executive Pablo Hidalgo is stepping in it potentially big time with a legal statement that may come back to haunt the studio. Today, we will show you what's happening online and the impact it might have in the lawsuit against Kathleen Kennedy, Star Wars, Disney, and more. Well, folks, welcome back to the wonderful world of sanity. We have the Council of Pure Logic here with us today. Culture Casino, Lauren Connor from That Park Place, both of them ready to go and talk about Gina Carano. Gentlemen, how are you?
Splendiferous.
Wyatt, I'm rolling.
Folks, this is going to be a dandy of a show, I can already tell you. All right, well, let's, as we get ready to dive in, make sure you click that like button. And if you'd like to support us even more, Vacation Radio, the link is in the video description down below. And here, well, we go. Straight into the maelstrom that is the Gina Carano situation. This is from Roar Ashley. It's from July 30th, which means just 2 days ago. Oh, July, we remember you so well. It says, even denied my review appeal, I don't get it in the slightest. There are other celebrity fan communities on Facebook that are set up the exact same way. Maybe it's my words. Any excuse to shut me up. Is it that threatening? A Gina Carano fan community. And it goes on to show this GinaCarano.net was accused of impersonation by Meta. And Gina Carano to the rescue, although I don't think it's going to do what we need it to do because I'm not sure Facebook/Meta is paying attention to them. Gina says, here, Meta is persecuting my most popular and reliable fan site when so many other actual impersonators truly exist and you do nothing. GinaCarano.net is a reliable source and fan site. I have been so appreciative of their support over the years. I guess this website tells too much of the truth for a place like Meta. X is where you get your real, reliable news anyway. Now, the reason that we're bringing this up in a video that is dedicated to Pablo Hidalgo is that it seems strange to me, gentlemen, that at the same time that Gina Carano wins and gets to go into this lawsuit full-fledged, full bore, Kathleen Kennedy going to have to testify. We're going to get discovery. We're going to get depositions. All of a sudden, her fan site is blocked by one of the biggest social media outlets out there. Guys, I think things are beginning to get a little fishy. Culture, you seem like you have an opinion on this. What do you got?
Look, to me, this is very unsurprising if there's a way to, escalate unsurprised to a different level. I'll say that this is exactly what you would expect, a little bit of lawfare, a little bit of, shaking hands behind, the scenes or, a little deal under the table, because the last thing in the world that, anybody would want, specifically Disney, is, a full-throated support of Gina when she is unmasking all of the ill deeds at Disney and Lucasfilm.